Hi, everyone. Welcome to Guardian Recovery Network Live. I am your host, Kevin Michael Isaac. Thank you all for tuning in. We are excited to be back for season 2 of GRN Live. Last season, we did 15 episodes, and they were all amazing. And this season, we will have more fantastic guests, alumni, and other industry professionals here for season 2. Tonight, I am extremely excited for our guests. She is one of my favorites, and she is truly an inspiration. And I am going to welcome her in, Angel Gallegos. Yes.
You came kind of close. Gallegos, but
Gallegos. Gallegos.
Gallegos, like Guy Agos.
Then it should be Guyegos.
Well, you know.
My Massachusetts accent and
kind of gets in the way of all that.
Totally.
People say Gallegos all the time too, so.
Why haven't you ever corrected me?
Because you've never really had said my last name before. I don't think I've ever heard you until now.
I don't think that's true. I think you just like watching me struggle with it.
Gallegos, yes.
I'll never get it wrong again. And that's totally a lie. I want to start off with a tough question.
Yeah, okay.
Tell us something about you that people may not know.
That kind of is a tough question. I don't really know. I think, people here in like Florida know pretty much everything about me in a sense. I can say one thing is that I make up like my own language, and I make up words that I think make sense and sound good. And literally the only person who can understand what I'm saying is Danielle. And believe me, she
that was one of the tidbits of information she gave me. Like your secret language.
We laugh a lot over that because I think I'm trying, like, I just make up words to sound smarter, and it doesn't even make
an example of one.
Not at the top of my head. I'll probably get nervous and say something that only she'll understand in a sense, but it makes no sense to anybody else.
So I'm going to need like a translation guide.
Yes.
So you grew up in Denver, Colorado, right?
Denver, Colorado.
And kind of take us a little bit, just kind of tell us about you growing up and what it was like, and I guess kind of what ultimately led you down the road to alcohol and drugs.
So, I grew up in a very, very dysfunctional family. At the time, I didn't realize how dysfunctional it was. To me, it was kind of normal. I think what really started me feeling like I was different and like all these things was the trauma that happened in my life as a young child. I was sexually abused by my stepfather, who I considered to be my real dad, and at a very, very young age. And I remember, like, after it happened and stuff, he had given me like a fudgesicle to keep quiet. And I think from that point on, I kind of learned to be ashamed of myself, to keep secrets. Even though I know it felt wrong and I didn't feel good inside, I just kept this secret in me. And it happened to me throughout probably till I was 13 years old, until I finally stood up for myself. I did tell my mom when I was like 9 years old. I made a comment, but I never like 100% like stayed with that. I switched back, like, okay, no, this didn't happen. Maybe I was just dreaming it, even though I knew that that's what had happened.
You've kind of haven't had the ability to kind of go through that. Was that kind of, I mean, obviously it's a super traumatic incident, but was that kind of something that really led to your addiction?
I think that, and just how so, you know, we how I grew up, like, I'm Hispanic, and when we in the neighborhood we lived in was mostly white people. I felt ashamed of who I was. I think me and my sister we got picked on a lot. There was a lot of racial slurs towards us. If anything came missing up in the neighborhood, the cops would come to our house. And I think I just, as a young child, seeing that and seeing how people treated us, I just completely shut down. And I was one of those kids, and I've been like this for a long time, that I just hold all that in. I never express how I feel. I never tell anybody I'm sad or anybody I'm struggling. And I think that really is what caused me to start drinking, because when I did drink, it was like that feeling was so amazing. And then I didn't care what people said. I had that voice, then I had that power. I was invincible when alcohol came into my life at 14 years old.
So 14, do you remember where it started? Did someone give it to you? What did that look like?
So I stole it from my mother's house. My mom she was always working. My mom worked a lot. She wasn't really there. And she would go on trips and like have my sister babysit me. So I feel like my sister raised me and my little brother. My sister's only 3 years older than me. She didn't want to really be around and raise her brothers and sisters. So I kind of watched her smoking weed and having fun and doing all those things. And so one time I'd go roller skating every Friday and Saturday night. That was a cool thing. That's where everybody hung out to go roller skating.
You can't, like, you're totally dating yourself that you were like roller skating.
Yeah, I loved it, but that's where I got to go out and have that freedom. My mom never gave me a curfew, never did anything. So that was bad for her. I had a lot of freedom with that. And I remember stealing her wild turkey. And back then they had like the 7-Eleven big gulps that were like super big. And we would fill that up with alcohol and like this much soda. And I remember the first time of us drinking, it was disgusting, but I liked the way it made me feel. And my friend ended up getting her stomach pumped that night. Cops got involved, took me home to my mom. But I just liked that feeling. I liked the way it made me feel. I liked how I just felt. I just felt good. I loved the feeling of alcohol. That it was just
At this point, was it like affecting your school? Was it affecting relationships?
So I think now that I look back, I really didn't have a relationship with my mom. I always wanted my mom to be like other people's moms, and like I said, I didn't understand that maybe she couldn't be that mom until after I started, going through the program and everything and realizing stuff in therapy. But I just always compared her. So I always wanted to be at somebody else's house, and my mom let me. I spent the night always at my friends' houses. I never wanted to be home. The minute I got into alcohol and all my friends and I were doing that, I literally, when I started picking up alcohol, I had no ambition. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about school. So when I got into high school, I didn't go to high school. I didn't graduate high school. I went there to go meet my friends, and then we'd leave and see whose house we could go to, whose parents we can go steal alcohol from.
Had you met Danielle at this point?
No, me and Danielle met later on when we were both of age to drink.
Like 2 barflies? Is that where you met?
We actually met at dental assistant school, and I did not like Danielle when I first met her.
And I don't think she liked you much. She said that you used to copy her work.
You know what? I can't believe I even graduated dental assistant school. I copied all her work, and I pretty much kissed the teacher's butt. Like, I brown nosed so bad that the teacher fell in love with me, and like I got away with everything and Danielle didn't. And so, there was a little resentment there.
So at some point, right, you start getting into drugs, right?
Yeah. So back then, it was crank. I'm 47 years old. So I dabbled a little bit with that. I really didn't get into hard drugs until probably later in my 20s, but alcohol obviously was a factor throughout my whole life. But I didn't really think I had a problem with alcohol. I had a problem with if I drank hard liquor and beer together, so I really didn't think I had a problem. But the minute drugs got into my life, it changed the dynamic a lot more.
Is crank still even around?
I don't think so. It's if you find it, when I was in active addiction, it was like the best thing ever because it wasn't.
I had a couple bad nights on that stuff. We're living in California.
Yeah. So, I would go through phases in my life, though. I would do that for a while and then I'd get off that and then I would just drink. Or I would stop drinking a little bit and then just kind of do drugs. I never ever 100% got off of anything in my whole life. I've always had a substance to use to numb everything that I was feeling.
Switching seats on the Titanic, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
At what point did it get like totally out of control where it was unmanageable? And then did you like start going to rehabs to kind of
So yeah, so growing up in Colorado, rehabs and detox weren't a thing, and if they were, I wasn't educated enough about them. I didn't know about them. What my mom did for me when she started seeing me acting out really bad was send me to other family members. So I hopped around to other family members thinking like a geographical change was going to fix everything. And it would fix it for a month, but then I would attract to the negative of everything and I would blow my life up. And I think when my grandma lives in New Mexico, and that's usually who I got sent to was my grandma. But my grandma is not like normal grandmas. She was my biggest enabler. My grandma and my aunts and uncles are, they are severe heroin addicts. And I remember as a young child, well, not even as a young child, as a teenager, while I was drinking and doing other things, looking at them and saying, I'll never be like you. You guys are gross. I can't believe you do this. Watching them still and do all those things. And I was like, I'm never going to be like you. I was super judgmental towards them for doing that.
Yeah.
And I ended up being just like them.
So let's kind of fast forward to you entering immersion.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of take us through that story, because I know at that point, Danielle was living in Florida, you were still out in Colorado, and
yeah. So, Danielle, me and Danielle stopped having contact probably like 7 years prior because she ended up going to treatment and coming to Florida. We would touch base barely, but I was still in severe active addiction. My addiction got me, I was in jail. I was facing 48 years in prison for distribution. And I was sitting in jail one day and I had called my mom and she's like, you're never going to believe who contacted me. And I was like, who? And she's like, Danielle. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, she wants to get you help. Here's her number. And I remember calling Danielle from jail and like I heard her voice and I don't know, me and Danielle have this special relationship. I don't think too many people have relationships with people they were in active addiction with, but like for some reason me and her just have this amazing relationship. And I remember hearing her voice and I just started crying, like hysterically crying. I couldn't even have a conversation with her. Like I couldn't talk to her. I had to call her back, later when I calmed down a little bit. But, she offered me an opportunity to come to treatment. And of course, I would have done anything to get out of jail. I really didn't know what treatment was. I knew sitting in jail that I wanted to get help, and I knew like, I don't want to use, but I thought, I could still drink. I never thought like maybe I could drink, yeah, normal. So I ended up going through a long process with the courts. It was like about a 6-month process for me to get all this even handled. And I got out of jail and I was supposed to be able to go to Florida and Colorado. The state of Colorado told me I wasn't allowed to leave the state. At that point, my family still didn't want to talk to me. I had nowhere to live. I was sleeping on my grandma's couch at a senior living center place where my grandma lives. And I immediately picked up again. And my boyfriend at the time, Eric, of 13 years, I kept calling him, telling him, you need to leave Florida, because Danielle got him to Florida too to get help. I was like, you just need to come back here. You're leaving me out here all by myself, and Patrick actually was the one who told Eric just to get me on a plane. Who cares about probation? I can deal with that stuff later. Otherwise, I'm either going to die or I'm going to end up in jail for the rest of my life.
Where is Eric now?
He's still in Florida.
Still doing well?
He's still doing really good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's how I got on a plane, I remember Danielle having
Can you talk about like that feeling of getting on the plane, of like not knowing what's going to happen, kind of like where you're going, kind of just the unknown?
Yeah, I was so scared, Kevin. I've never been like scared in my whole life. And I remember Danielle telling me, like, you can't come here and be positive for anything, because I was going directly into like the PHP part. I wasn't going to have to go to detox, because Danielle thought I was sober this whole time. She didn't know I got out and used immediately. So I just remember sitting on the plane and watching people drink. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to have a drink, like just to calm myself. I didn't know what treatment was going to be like. I thought I was going to come to Florida. Somebody was going to give me some magic words and I was going to be cured. I didn't realize all the hard work I was going to have to put into this.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yeah. I clearly remember the day I walked into treatment. It was probably one of the most terrifying moments of my life,
Mm-hmm.
Because you kind of walk in and the gig's up, and then the big unknown, you got to meet new people, and what's going to happen, what are they going to make me do, and how am I going to feel, just the whole shit show in your head.
And I was institutionalized. I was in jail a year before that, so it was like I didn't know how to interact with people. I interacted with people that I was in jail with, but that's not the same. I was scared.
Yeah.
So scared.
So talk about your experience at Immersion.
So my experience at Immersion, it was good. It wasn't always good in the beginning. I remember getting there and like going through the book, not really understanding any of it, getting frustrated of having to listen and do all those things. I don't think it really started making sense to me until I started writing, writing my 4-step. I do remember one of my biggest struggles was when the suggestion was that I end this 13-year-long relationship, right? Like that was one of the huge suggestions for me. I didn't want to do it. I've always have had a man in my life. I'm super codependent on men. And them telling me that me and Eric shouldn't be together, that I need to work on myself, I kept telling myself, no, this is different. We were somewhat of a healthy relationship. It wasn't abusive, because I have a long history of dating abusive men. So I think that was one of the hardest things for me to do. One of the best things was that Danielle kind of had my life mapped out already at Immersion, like my therapist picked, where I was going. So I really didn't have to think a lot, but work on myself, which was really, really good.
He's good at that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, she knew me, she found I got a therapist that I was able to honestly be open about my kids, the shame behind me being a bad mother, some of my deepest, darkest secrets. I finally was able to open up. And honestly, I finally understood why everybody there was telling me to get out of a relationship. Why I need
kids pot.
Huh?
How do we miss the whole kids part in your story?
Well, we kind of just skipped a whole chunk of my life. I have a long life. I'm
Jeepers.
old.
So
Yeah, I have
you have
two.
2 kids, right?
I have a 27-year-old and a 25-year-old.
So you were in your early 20s
I
when you
was
first met
19 when I
Danielle.
had my daughter. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I was able to repair one of those relationships. My son still wants absolutely nothing to do with me, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't drink over it now. I made an amends, and you know,
You never know, it's they tell us, you just keep doing the next right thing and you never know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
You've seen it, I've seen it, miracles happen every day.
absolutely.
So you talked about the step work and kind of how that was critical for you. Can you talk, a little bit more about that step process?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning of the step work, it was easy for me to put who I was really resentful towards, because I hated everybody and blamed everybody for all my life choices. It was always somebody else's fault. The part I think I struggled the most at was when I had to turn it around and look where I was selfish in the whole situation. That's kind of where I came and hit a wall, and I was kind of like digging my feet. I don't want to do this. I still wanted to be the victim, right? I didn't want to look at any part of it. But, with all the love and support from everybody, Christine was actually, there and helped me get through my 4-step, and I finally just did it, and once I did it and was able to like read my 4-step, it was so relieving. Like, I don't feel like I had a spiritual experience that day, but I did feel a weight off my chest. I felt like, wow, I've been carrying around
A lot of
a
stuff.
lot of stuff, a
Yeah.
lot, and it's out now.
And that's totally normal. A lot of people, some people kind of have that like flash bang kind of like spiritual experience, and others like you and I, it's a slower, kind of gradual process that, the deeper we go into the step work and service to others, and, the closer we get with the God of our understanding,
Mhm.
spiritual awakening happens slowly.
Yeah, I don't think mine really happened until probably like 6 months ago, to be honest.
Really?
Like a really amazing one, um,
Like a aha moment, like,
yeah, like just sitting there and like being so relieved, like how peaceful my life is, how much I have really changed. It blows my mind sometimes that I'm where I am at today.
it's a miracle.
Yeah, it really is.
So talk about your life in recovery, like what it looks like. And
So I do a lot. You know, I I'm still very involved in the halfway house that I lived at, for 2 years. I try to show up and help a lot of the women. I sponsor women. I'm also a recovery coach still for Heron Project, so I'm able to still do that. Um, and I go to meetings, and now I get to work for Immersion. I think that was one of the coolest things ever. I know, like, because I was working for a Heron Project, and honestly, I was like, I love it, and I was just getting kind of isolated working from home. It's hard to work from home,
very hard.
and I was starting to get to the point where it was like, I'm not leaving my house for like weeks at a time. Um, and and then all of a sudden, Canny had reached out to me, and like it was like God opening doors for me, right? Like I wasn't even looking for anything, and like all these doors just started opening. I've always wanted to work at Immersion, and probably like a year and a half ago I had even talked to Danielle about it, but I wasn't ready. It wasn't the right time. My recovery wasn't solid, and I feel like that probably would have been a bad choice for me
Yeah.
at that time.
No, and I'm a big believer that things happen in the time they're supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
and you were able to do a ton of good work at Heron Project and, be on the front lines and be that first point of contact and help people out. It's it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
What so I know you've kind of been able to repair some of your family relationships. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, when I came to immersion, I was telling my therapist, I thought my son was going to be the easy one. Like he was going to forgive me because he was such a mama's boy growing up. And I was like, my daughter's just going to be a disaster. She's a very strong-willed person. But it was reversed. My daughter was just like, I just want you to get your life back together, and just showing them and doing things and not saying sorry all the time, and just doing the right thing. And they were able to start seeing that. And last year I was able to go spend 3 months in Texas because my daughter needed my help with my grandson. And I was able to go show up and be that mom and be that grandma and be trusted in her house. Like she gave me her credit card. Before I wasn't even allowed on the property line of my family's house.
Yeah,
But it was like she got to see Angel again, and she even told me that. She's like, "You are different, mom." She's like, "I can see it." And she's like, "I'm just so glad you're back in our lives."
that's so awesome.
I know, I'm part of my family group chats now. My sister and my mom just, my mom doesn't really say she's proud of me a lot. And not too long ago, she was like, "I'm really proud of you." Like they can actually see the change now. It wasn't, okay, I changed for 3 months and then I burned the house down, again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just from the time I've known you, I've definitely seen the change, and I'm sure Danielle has, and there's no secret to it. It's available to anyone if you want to put in the work and put in the effort and dig deep. That's the beauty of recovery.
Yeah.
Relationships heal, and you're able to be a family member again, and be a mom, and be a friend, and show up for people. That's the beauty.
And not be, I'm not selfish anymore. I just, coming from having nothing, I literally came out here with a backpack. I didn't have anything, Kevin, nothing, zero. I had no credit. And I didn't know how I was going to restart my life at 45 years old. I just didn't think it was going to be possible. I didn't think I was ever going to find happiness. And I definitely didn't think I was going to be able to do it alone. And I think one of the biggest gifts was that I did this recovery by myself, not dependent on a man or anything. And that just empowered me even more. JoJo was a huge inspiration to me in the beginning and like guided me so much with giving me strength to believe in myself, that helped, just having those type of women in my life in the beginning.
She's the best with that.
She's amazing. Like,
She's a smart woman too.
yeah, very. What I was just saying the other day, I was like, she's happy, like 100% happy. And you can see that, and that's how happy I want to get. Like, it's inspiring just to be that happy.
Totally. I can still get her angry once in a while though.
Well,
My job in life.
you're the husband. That's what's supposed to happen.
Talk about the community aspect of it, because I know that's a big piece of your recovery.
Yeah, I'm very involved in everything I can get in, AA, like my home group, fellowshipping. I try to surround myself just around people in recovery. I feel for myself that anything outside of that is dangerous for me. I've been a hardcore drug addict for many, many years, and this is something I need to be like right in the middle of. Tropic House was probably one of the best communities I've ever lived in, for sober living, even though towards the end, I complain because everybody wants to get out of sober living, but me staying there for as long as I did was like so helpful to me, and just building those relationships with women. Because I hear a lot when I talk to women is I don't get along with other women. I get along better with the men, but I mean, I said the same thing, but now I have like so many strong women in my life, and I'd rather turn to them than anybody else.
Yeah. Guys are trouble. We're all trouble.
Yeah. I mean, this is the longest I've ever been, single in my whole life. And it's so freeing. And I love it.
You got any prospects?
I don't, I think about Danielle always tells me, when are you going to start dating? But I'm happy and I'm okay by myself right now. I've never been by myself ever,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be by myself. And I think when God wants me to find somebody, it'll present itself,
100%.
I'm not going to go try to force it or getting on Tinder or doing any of those bad behaviors,
You like tamales?
Do I like tamales?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm Hispanic, of course. Do you?
I love tamales.
Yes.
When I lived in Fresno, they used to come by.
Oh, you got
like the real deal, like
Paleto man. Yeah, that used to push the carts and ring the bell.
yeah, and you get like 3 for like $6.
Yes.
Oh, they're the best.
Yes. Those are, I don't know how to make them, but
Do you know how to cook any Mexican food?
absolutely.
Like what?
Like green chili, red chili, and it's kind of different from Florida Mexican food. Southwest, like California and that area, I think that Mexican food style is way different than out here. I think it's more Cuban out here, but yeah.
Yeah, totally is. I think California and is the real deal.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I haven't cooked as much as I'd like. I used to love cooking and enjoy baking. I just
You don't want to make tamales.
I know. Actually, I want to do that maybe for Christmas because it's a long process. It's not easy.
No, you get the masa, you cook the meat.
Yeah, you got to roll it all together.
Then you gotta steam them.
Yep. If I make some, I'll make sure I send you some.
Don't send me tamales. Are you gonna send them in the mail?
Yeah, you can put them in dry ice. Well, that you'll have to come down then.
Done deal. Can you make mole?
No, I don't really like mole.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it actually either.
No, it's too thick and I don't like that chocolatey taste in it. Yeah.
So one of the questions I asked you was, who is your biggest inspiration?
Mm-hmm.
Would you answer that for us?
Yes, Danielle. And I say that because, I was able to see Danielle at her worst, and to see where Danielle is now, I didn't think either one of us would get there, but to see her where she is now is just absolutely admiring to me. And especially like this last few years, Danielle has went through a lot of hard things, and I'm not going to lie, for a minute, I was really worried about my friend's, mental health and everything just because of everything that was going on. But she's held her head up with such dignity and has pushed through it and hasn't picked up. And, it's beautiful. And I feel it just shows you if you really work a program and you want to stay sober and you want that, you can go through anything in life and still come out standing tall at the end. And she's been one that this last few years that it's really amazing to see.
And that's kind of one of the promise of recovery, right? There's no guarantee that bad stuff's not going to happen. But if you lean on your support system and stay true, and you can get through anything.
And it's nice that I can show up to her as a friend and call her out on some crap, instead of enabling her, because me and her used to be the biggest enablers to each other. And instead of me, and it's nice to be able to do that for her, to say, hey, no, you're acting out, you shouldn't be doing this, and her take it in and respect it. And you know what I mean? We weren't like that. We didn't have that friendship before.
And I'm sure that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
I won't go there. But Angel, I want to thank you. We're just about out of time. You are a true inspiration, and I love you, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad we've got to know each other over the last couple of years, and you are a powerhouse.
Thank you, Kevin, and I love you too.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we will be back next Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Have a great night.